Hello, welcome to Tap That MTG, the show where we should tell you everything we know about magic that's probably wrong,
but fun to talk
but
about.
very fun to talk about. I'm Shawna,
I'm Lesley.
and today we are going to bring you another commander deck, this one called Faceless Menace.
Commander 2019 coming out in a week, the end of this week.
Is it already?
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
it's exciting.
Finally. So in this video, we're going to go over the entire deck, all the cards, broken up into sections based on what the cards do, and tell you a little bit about how we think those cards should work, how they play, and we'll also tell you some tweaks that maybe you want to think about doing.
Yeah.
We want to think about doing anyway.
Talk a little bit about rules.
Oh yes,
how they work.
Bring up when the rules come up. We'll tell you a little bit about how they work.
Yeah. Cool.
All right.
So the commander for this deck, Faceless Menace, is Kadana Slinking Sorcerer. She is super awesome as far as the picture goes. I love this artwork. It's 3 colors, the commander, and so we have a black, a green, a blue, and a colorless. And she is a Naga wizard that's a 3/3. And she has the ability that the first face down creature spell that you cast each turn costs 3 less to cast. So 3 colorless. You still have to pay the colored cost, but that's pretty cool.
Yes,
Gets you your
cool.
once she's out, then you can start morphing all kinds of things onto the battlefield.
Power Rangers.
And then when a face down creature enters the battlefield under your control, you get to draw a card. So you're playing a face down creature and you get to draw a card off of it. So card draw is super awesome in this deck, which brings us, I guess, to our first category, which is card draw.
Yes. So the first card we have for that is a blue card called Leadership Vacuum. It's for 2 and a blue, and it's an instant, and target player returns each commander they control from the target player returns each commander they control from the battlefield to the command zone. Draw a card. So it sounds a little weird when it says each commander, but there is that pairing commander. There's a few of them that they have to return both of those, but then you get to draw a card.
So I guess one thing to think about too in this deck, because there is a lot of card draw in this deck, which is great for drawing, and there is 1 land in this deck that allows you to have an unlimited hand size. If you do not have an unlimited hand size you will have to discard. So be careful on your choices of when you're going to play those card draw. Maybe wait until you get your land out that allows you to have an unlimited hand size, and just be strategic about it. Think before you play, as we have said in other videos, but think before you play. So the next one is Pendant of Prosperity for 3 colorless. Pendant of Prosperity enters the battlefield under your control, under the control of an opponent of your choice. So you're not giving this to yourself, you're giving it to an opponent. Then that person can pay 2 and tap it to draw a card, and they can put that land card from their hand onto the battlefield. But then Pendant of Prosperity's owner, which is still you, also gets to draw a card, and that player puts a land card onto the battlefield. So you're playing Commander is great. This is a great opportunity, I guess, to talk a little bit about the politics. Commander is supposed to be a game that's multiplayer, it's fun, it's okay to table talk. So this just encourages that. You're going to give it to somebody that you think might need a hand up. Maybe it's the underdog, maybe it's someone that you're going to work with for a little while at least, and give them a benefit that benefits you as well.
Commander has lots of those kinds of things going on. The next one we have is called Voice of Many, and it is a elf druid creature for 2 and 2 green. It's a 3/3. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card for each opponent who controls fewer creatures than you. So you're going to see with this deck, you're probably going to have a lot of creatures out, so you get to draw some cards.
And this one's in the Populate deck as well. Primal Hunger. So that one's new. And then there's Thought Sponge for 3 and a blue. It has Flash, which is great. So Flash is a rule that basically allows you to play this creature as if it was an instant. So you can play that anytime you can play an instant. Thought Sponge enters the battlefield with a number of 1/1 counters on it equal to the greatest number of cards an opponent has drawn this turn. When Thought Sponge dies, draw cards equal to its power. So it gets you cards when it comes in, or it gets you counters when it comes in. When it dies, allows you to draw a card, and you can strategically play it when you feel it's the best time based on how many cards people have drawn. If somebody else is playing card draw, then you can say, hey, you know what? I'm going to put this creature in and make it really big. Or when you're drawing a bunch, then you can do it as well.
Awesome. All right, Tezzeret's Gambit for 3, and this is one of those, what are they called again? Those kinds of mana. You can pay 2 life or you can pay the blue. So it's 3 and 1 of those. There's a special name for it, but I can't think of the name for it right now. But anyways, you can draw 2 cards, then proliferate. So this is going to help with your counters, plus drawing cards.
Yeah, not a new mana symbol, just allows you to pay 2 life instead. So, Secret Plans is green and a blue. It's an enchantment, and
I like this card.
Yeah, this is great. It gives your face down creatures +0/+1, and when a permanent you control is turned face up, you get to draw a card. So we put it in card draw. There's a lot of cards in this deck that have multiple purposes. You'll notice that when we get to our Morph, we had to split that up into separate subcategories. But this one we felt went in card draw because you're probably going to use it for card draw the most. The little benefit of face down creatures also get +0/+1, makes them nice little blockers until you can get things set up, makes them not die until you can turn them over, flip them over.
All right, so let's start with removal. So the first card we have for removal is this crazy dinosaur called Apex Altasaur for 7 and 2 green. It is a huge 10/10 dino, but it seems like a high cost. But listen to this. When it enters the battlefield, it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. So the first time it fights, you can choose whether you want it to fight or not. But you're going to want it to fight because that's why you're bringing it out. And then it also has what other dinosaurs have called Enrage. And so whenever the Apex Altasaur is dealt damage, it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. So that happens continuously until
it's dead or everything else is dead.
Yeah, exactly. Until there's nothing left to fight. So keep that in mind when you're playing it. It's a kind of a board wipe, but you might get rid of it too. But with 10 toughness, it's going to be hard.
It's going to last a while.
Yeah.
Bane of the Living is 2 and 2 black. It is our first Morph card that we're showcasing, and we put it in the removal just because it's a great little removal card. It's basically meant for removal. So Morph works when a card's in your hand that has Morph, instead of paying its mana cost, you can pay its Morph cost, or you can pay 3 to play it on the battlefield as a 2/2 instead. Yeah. And it just comes in as a 2/2 for 3, and it just sits there as no color. So then when you flip it up, you're going to flip it up for its Morph cost. You can look at those at any time. If you don't remember what they are, you can look at the ones that are face down. And basically, in this case, we have X and 2 black to morph this. So you choose what X is. And when it is turned face up, all creatures get -X until the end of turn. So that's a nice little removal card. I love that card.
You play it for cheap as a creature. And then away you go.
And the nice thing is you can do your morphing at instant speed at any time that you need it. Right. So if it's on their turn, on your turn, you choose when to have that effect happen.
Right.
And it's on the battlefield, and you know what it is, but they don't. So you're just getting all these creatures that if you need them, you need them. But in the meantime, they're going to be
So if I'm attacking you, I'm going to be a little leery of, you've got mana open. I might be worried that you're going to turn one of those cards up on me.
So that's the trick of this deck with Morph.
Cool. All right, and the next card we're talking about is good old Vraska the Unseen. So she is back with a vengeance. She's been printed before. She's 3 and a black and a green for a 5 loyalty planeswalker. Her first ability +1 until your next turn. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to Vraska the Unseen, destroy that creature. So don't touch her. She will kill you with her death ray. Or -3, destroy target non-land permanent. That enchantment, I don't like it. It's gone. -7 is put 3/1/1 black assassin creature tokens onto the battlefield with whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, that player loses the game. You're assassinated. Sorry. Bye-bye.
I hate her. I love her.
I love her.
But she's mean.
She's very mean.
Sultai Charm is all 3 colors. The Sultai colors.
The Sultai colors. There you go.
Surprise.
We talked about
colors in another video. Someone talks about playing a Sultai deck. It means they're playing black, green, blue, which is what this costs. It's an instant, and you can choose one of the following: destroy target destroy target monocolored creature, destroy target artifact or enchantment, or draw 2 cards, then discard a card. Versatility, always very important in Commander, and this is a great card for that.
Yeah. All right, Reality Shift. I think we've seen this one before.
Mm-hmm.
It is for 1 and a blue, an instant, where you exile target creature and its controller manifests the top card of his or her library. So you're getting rid of a creature, but they have to manifest what's on top. So again, play that strategically. They might know what's on top, and you're going to just mess it up for them or whatever.
So what's manifest?
Manifest is you take the top card, so it could be you, could be your opponent, takes the top card of your library and just put it on the battlefield face down and it's a 2/2. And then if it's a creature, you can turn it up for its mana cost. If it's not a creature, though, if it's a land or something like that, you can't do anything with it. Mm-hmm.
Just stays as a creature.
Just stays as a creature until it dies. All right.
Kind of the same as Morph, I guess. It still counts as a face-down creature, but the Morph cost is its mana cost.
Yeah.
Cool. Putrefy. I love the art on this one, too. 1, a green, and a black for an instant. Destroy target artifact or creature. It can't be regenerated. We can't talk today. We're just having
trouble today.
A tough time. I don't know what it is.
It's not our usual time that we're filming, so maybe that's it. Coffee's worn off.
We're
for
off.
Me. Okay, our next one is a simple sorcery called Mire and Misery. Sorry. See, look at you jinxed me. For 1 and a black, it is each opponent sacrifices a creature or enchantment. Love it.
Mm-hmm.
Get rid of it.
Echoing Truth is also a really great card.
Mm-hmm.
1 and a blue for another instant that returns target non-land permanent and all other permanents with the same name as that permanent to their owner's hand.
I can do that to your zombie tokens.
Well, yeah, tokens.
Mm-hmm.
The Proliferate deck will have tokens of the same name.
Mm-hmm.
Returning them to the hand, that's ultimately what this card I think will be for in Commander, because Commander, you can only have 1 card that has the same name in it, so the likelihood of you having more than 1 card.
For the tokens.
So it's really for tokens.
Mm-hmm.
Those statues.
I wish I would have had that with the stupid Ajani's Bridemaid today.
Yeah.
Let's just not talk about that right now.
Okay.
Okay. Next card is Hex, which sounds fun. For 4 and 2 black, destroy 6 target creatures.
Jeepers.
So each destroy costs 1. So I'm going to destroy 6 creatures for 6. It's pretty awesome.
That is a great removal.
That is totally awesome. It's a sorcery, but hey, I don't care if you see it coming. You're gone.
All right. So now we're moving into our official Morph section. All the cards we talk about next will have Morph on them in some way, shape, or form. It could be Mega Morph. It could be Morph. We've already talked about what Morph does, so we won't go over that again. But this one, it's going to be played on the battlefield for 3, face down. And then if you play it for its Morph cost, or if you flip it face up for its Morph cost, which is 1, then whenever another non-token creature you control dies, draw a card. So you can play it on the battlefield for 3 if you want. It costs 2 and a black for a 3/2, or you can put it down on the battlefield for 3 and flip it up for its Morph cost of 1.
So I was thinking with this card, it would be really good at instant speed to when you know that you're going to have a whole bunch of creatures die and you need cards. You're going to flip this up at its Morph cost. And
yeah, because a lot of people, I mean, well, myself included, when you look at some of these cards, you're like, well, why wouldn't you just pay it and have it on the battlefield for 3? Why wouldn't you just because ultimately, technically, this is going to cost you 4 if you do it for its morph cost. It's all about secrecy. That is why the commander is all about secrecy.
Yeah.
So you want to keep your stuff hidden until you need it.
You need it. It basically lets you have more cards in your arsenal to be ready for you to do stuff.
Yeah, it's like having your battlefield as your hand.
Yeah.
They're just also creatures.
Yeah. All right. Enoch Survivalist for 1 and a green.
Removal section?
This is in the removal, the morph removal. This card is a reprint, and I've always liked this card too. It's a Hound Shaman for 2/1. So it has Megamorph on it. So same thing as Morph. You pay the morph cost. You pay the 3 to put it face down, and then you can pay its Megamorph cost, which is 1 and a green, which is the same as its regular cost. And when it turns face up, though, Megamorph puts a 1/1 counter on whatever you're turning face up. So it can only do that if it has that Megamorph written on there, which this one does. And when it is turned face up, you can destroy target artifact or enchantment an opponent controls. So this is a great creature as well as removal. He's awesome.
Another great removal creature card we have is Chrome Shell Crab for 4 and blue. It's a 3/3. Or you can decide to morph it and put it on the battlefield for 3 colorless and morph it for the same cost. But when it is turned face up, you may exchange control of target creature you control for target creature your opponent controls. So you can just play it and have it as a 3/3, or you can pay it and then turn it face up and exchange control of a target creature.
I think that's going to be some combat shenanigans going on.
Lots of combat shenanigans. Yeah, during combat or otherwise. Yeah. We always recommend try and save your instant stuff for combat.
Yes, for sure. All right, 1,000 Winds. It's for 4 and 2 blue, a 5/6 flyer. But it has a morph cost of 5 and 2 blue, so a little more, but when it gets turned face up, return all other tapped creatures to their owner's hand. So again, you can combat shenanigans, right? You can do that. He taps them to swing at you. You can send them all back to his hand. Sorry.
No before combat damage.
Before combat damage, yep.
Plus, if they're tokens, they disappear because they can't go back to his hand. All right. Primal Genesis. Anyways, Skin Thinner.
It's a weird
costs
card.
1 and a black for a 2/1. Or you can play its morph costs, and when you flip it face up, you're going to pay 3 and 2 black and have it destroy target non-black creature. It can't be regenerated. I think the reason this costs so much, though, is it's just a straight-out destroy. I think it's pretty expensive. They probably could have put better removal in there for morph, but it's on theme and it's got morph. So
it's a creepy-looking card.
Yeah.
All right, the Silumgar Assassin is aptly named because it is for regular, for 1 and a black. It is a 2/1, but it has a Megamorph on it. But first of all, creatures with power greater than Silumgar Assassin's power can't block it. So he's going to sneak in there and do much damage. And its Megamorph is 2 and a black, so it gets that counter. So it's going to be a 3/2 when it turns face up. And when it is turned face up, destroy target creature with power 3 or less an opponent controls. So it becomes this crazy unblockable, well, semi-unblockable thing that's going to destroy one of their creatures as well. Probably tokens.
Natuko Vigilante?
Something like that.
It's 3 and a green, and you can morph it if you choose to morph it. Flip it over for 2, 1 and a green. But when it is turned face up, you get to destroy target artifact or enchantment. So this is a nice little...
It's cheaper at the morph cost.
It's cheaper at the morph cost. Well, technically you've paid 3 and then you've paid another 2. The nice thing about that, though, again, is that you can split up the cost of this card over turns. And so you can technically play bigger things that do better stuff faster because you get them, you kind of pay for half the cost and pay the other half the cost.
True.
It's like having credit.
That's true.
Don't waste your credit.
That's right. Oh, too funny. So this one is an Ice Feather Aven. It's a 2/2 for a green and a blue. And it's a flyer, and its morph cost is 1, a green and a blue. And it when it gets turned face up, you may return another target creature to its owner's hand. So a little bit of removal there.
Yeah. Lots of great morph removals.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I would return it to its hand as it's attacking. Just kind of keep him tricky, and then you have it on the battlefield. It's a creature. So there's some other morph cards out there that didn't really fit with removal or card draw, but still great cards. So Willbender, 1 and a blue for a 1/2. Or you can morph it. Its morph cost is 1 and a blue as well. And when it's turned face up, you can change the target of target spell or ability with a single target. So something's targeting a single target, you can change that target. This deck has a lot of like counter spells and change target and play with stuff on the stack.
Yeah. So I'm going to lightning strike you.
I flip this over.
You flip this over and say, no, I'm going to lightning strike you.
Or your creature or
or your creature or whatever.
Choose your own target.
That's how that works.
So you can't change the target of something that targets more than one. Only a single target is what this works. Kind of.
Right. Okay, so a Vesuvian shapeshifter for 3 and 2 blue. As it enters the battlefield or is turned face up, you may choose another creature on the battlefield. If you do, until the Vesuvian shapeshifter is turned face down, it becomes a copy of that creature and gains. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may turn this creature face down. So this is a lot of text. It's really complicated. It's a 0/0, so it's a 1 and a blue to morph it. So how can I explain this one?
You morph it.
Yeah. And it's going to be a copy of...
You turn it face up, and it becomes a copy of their 10/10 Eldrazi...
something or other. And
that creates a 10/10 token.
Yeah. And then at your upkeep, you just flip this back over again and continue on and do it again.
If you choose.
If you choose, yeah.
So
you may turn this creature face down.
You decide that they have another creature on the battlefield that you want, or somebody else has something better, then you may choose to turn it face down.
It's going to be really annoying because you're going to basically be copying all their good stuff.
Pay 2 to turn it back up.
Yeah.
That's a really good morph cost. You have to play it over and over again, but oh my gosh, that's great.
All right.
Fellow Knight Hermit, 3 and a green. Saproling creatures get +1/+1. There is a few cards that create Saprolings in here, including this card. It's just a 1/1, which seems like crazy to pay for a 1/1, or even to morph this for a 1/1. It's 3 and 2 green to morph it. But when it's turned face up, you get 4 1/1 green Saproling creature tokens. So technically you're getting 4 2/2s because the Saproling creatures are +2/+2. So that's technically an 8/8. So you're getting 8 power and 8 toughness for 5.
And you can use your shapeshifter on your own creature, I believe, and copy it. Copy the Saproling thing as well, if that's what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you can copy your own creatures and do that kind of thing. And this one would make tons of Saprolings all of a sudden.
Mm-hmm.
Between the two. All right, Stratus Dancer for 1 and a blue. It's a 2/1 flyer, and it has Megamorph. So for 1 and a blue, it's going to get a counter on it. And when it is turned face up, counter target instant or sorcery spell. So suddenly you have a counter, and they didn't know it was there.
Counter spell, haha. Mm-hmm. You didn't know I had that on my battlefield.
Plus, there's a creature there. Mm-hmm. A flyer. All of a sudden. Woo.
Sagu Mauler, 4 and a green and a blue, is a beast 6/6, or you can morph it. Its morph cost is 3, a green and a blue. And there's no special ability when this turns face up. It's just trample and hexproof, 6/6. But it costs a little bit less to morph it. So maybe you just can't quite get that mana. You can't find it. So you pay it for 3. You get it on the battlefield. It's a 2/2. And then when you have 5, you can flip it over right when you need it. You don't have to wait for 6. 1 mana makes a lot of difference when you're talking about a trample hexproof 6/6.
And maybe this is a good time to point out that because it's been out on the battlefield, it doesn't have summoning sickness. So you
Yes.
can flip it over and fight with it right away.
Yeah.
If it's been out there already.
Mm-hmm.
Kuru Spell Snatcher for 3 and a blue. It's a 3/3 Naga wizard. And it has a morph of 4 and 2 blue. And when it is turned face up, counter target spell again. If that spell is countered this way, exile it instead of putting it into its owner's graveyard. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost for as long as it remains exiled. So I'm not going to let you play your Lightning Strike, and then I'm going to play it.
Rude.
Sorry.
Cadena Silencer, 1 and a blue for a 2/1. This one, when it's turned faced up, counter all abilities your opponents control. It has a Mega Morph as well, so it comes with a 1/1 counter. Again, nice little counter spell.
Mm-hmm. Ixodron, it is an illusion. It's a rather huge illusion for 3 and 2 blue. And as it enters the battlefield, turn all other non-token creatures face down. So all of those creatures out there become 2/2s, including your opponents. And so then this guy's power and toughness are each equal to the number of face down creatures on the battlefield. So you've suddenly given them a whole bunch of 2/2s instead of 10/10s.
Mm-hmm.
And now your guy's big. And he's going to swing in there and cause some damage. It also turns your stuff face down, but that's a benefit to you.
That's okay, because you can just
you're going to make
morph them
You're going
again.
to do all sorts of things. So, yeah, you're prepared. They're not. All right.
Hooded Hydra, 2 green and X for a 0/0. But when Hooded Hydra enters the battlefield with X number of counters on it, so whatever X is, Hooded Hydra, when Hooded Hydra dies, put a 1/1 green snake creature token onto the battlefield for each 1/1 counter on it. It has Morph, so if you want to play it face down, you can play it face up when you have enough mana for X to mean something. Morph is 3. As Hooded Hydra is turned face up, put 5 1/1 counters. So a little bit less good if you, 5 is okay because you don't have to pay 5 for X, right?
Exactly.
So it's a little cheaper actually.
Exactly.
2 and 3 for 5 counters instead of having to pay 5 and 2. So yeah.
Yeah. Good. Death Mist Raptor for 1 and 2 green. It's this crazy little lizard beast
I love this guy.
thing.
Great.
3/3 Death Toucher. And whenever a permanent you control is turned face up, you may return Death Mist Raptor from your graveyard to the battlefield, face up or face down. And it has Megamorph on it, so it's for 4 and a green, and so then it'll have a counter on it, and then it becomes a 4/4 Death Toucher instead.
It just never goes away, and it's just ridiculous. This is a ridiculous card.
Yes.
This is one of those. Every deck that is coming out has some ridiculousness in it. This is one of those ridiculousnesses.
Things, yeah.
Den Protector, 1 and
like
a green for a human wizard. Creatures with power less than Den Protector's power can't block. It has Megamorph, so we know what that does. And when Den Protector is turned face up, return target card from your graveyard to your hand. Pull something out of the graveyard. Has a 1/1 counter on it. Yeah,
she's awesome. All right, so Gift of Doom for 4 and a black. It's an enchantment, an aura. Enchant creature, and so the enchanted creature has Death Touch and Indestructible. You can morph it. The cost for that is sacrifice another creature, and as it is turned face up, you may attach it to a creature. So again, this is one of those instant speed. Suddenly I've got an Indestructible Death Toucher. I'm going to block with it, and you're going to be sorry that you swung at me with the 10/10. Sorry.
We keep going back to the stupid 10/10.
I hate that 10/10 Eldrazi. Gosh. All right.
So there's other cards in this deck that are also, they don't have Morph. They're not really removal or card draw, but they're definitely on theme. So we pulled those out for this section. We have Ghastly Conscription, which is 5 and 2 black. It's a sorcery, and you can exile all creature cards from target player's graveyard in a face down pile. Shuffle that pile, then manifest those cards. And we talked a little bit about manifest before, so I'll just remind you again. Basically what that does is it puts them all on the battlefield as 2/2s, and you can pay their converted mana cost to flip them face up as creatures. You're basically just stealing all the stuff in their graveyard and putting it on your battlefield as a 2/2 to potentially play later, which they are fully aware of which cards you can play. So it also gives
They
them...
don't know which ones are out.
They don't know which ones are which because they're face down. You do, though. And it just... They either want to kill those creatures because they know that what they do and they don't want you to have their cards, or so it gives them other targets.
Yeah.
If they don't, then you get their creatures. Oh my gosh, it's
just crazy.
Yeah.
Scroll of Fate is an artifact for 3, and you can tap it and manifest a card from your hand. So again, just playing some shenanigans. That you don't know what I got there. It might just be an excess land that I'm just going to use instead to make it into a creature. But
so the other thing to think about too with this is that you're manifesting a card from your hand. You're putting it down as a face down card, but that doesn't mean you have to manifest it to turn it face up, because if you've manifested a morph card, you can pay its morph cost to turn it face up instead. So this is a cheap way to get your morph cards out on the battlefield. You just tap them, put them out, and then you don't have to pay that 3 mana cost and then flip them up.
Yeah.
Great little card.
I was thinking of shenanigans. This is you. Sorry.
Yeah, Thieving Amalgam, 5 and 2 black. It's a ape snake, 6/7 ape snake.
Weird.
At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, you manifest the top card of that player's library. I'm just going to steal the top card. Thanks. Thank you very much. When a creature you control, when a creature you control but don't own, which is their card, dies, its owner loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So now you're manifesting their cards. This is going to be a nightmare to keep track of which ones are manifested that belong to which players, and hopefully they have sleeves on them so that you could say, okay, this one died. Anyways, if you've manifested their entire graveyard and then you get this on the battlefield and then you swing with everything, they're going to be very reluctant to block.
Yeah. Yep. Just crazy.
Fun.
So some other cool cards that they are in the deck and they're just crazy. So we've got Biomass Mutation for X and a green-blue hybrid mana, 2 of them. Creatures you control become X until end of turn. So all your little manifestors you can, or all your little 2/2s, you can just make them at an instant speed to, they're 5/5s now.
Yeah.
It's insane.
And Great Oak Guardian, 5 and a green. It has flash, reach, and when it enters the battlefield, creatures target player controls get +2/+2 until the end of turn. Untap them. So basically, you can play this at instant speed as well. You can play it while you're blocked. I would play this while they're attacking you. You put it on the battlefield, you have an additional blocker, plus all of your creatures get +2/+2. If they're all manifested or morphed creatures, they're 4/4s, which is really decent. And and then you get to untap them. So even if you swung in last turn, you're untapping, and they didn't think that you could.
You weren't blocking. Oh, yes, I am. Yeah. All right, Seedborn Muse for 3 and 2 green. It's a 2/4 spirit, and untap all permanents you control during each other player's untap step. So you just constantly are untapping your guys.
Ridiculous.
You always have blockers. It's awesome.
Battle Bond ridiculousness. Road to Return, 2 green. Choose 1. Return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand, or put a commander into your hand from the command zone. So instead of having to pay that additional cost, you put your commander into your hand instead. This one also has Entwine 2, and you can choose both instead if you pay 2 more.
Which is pretty cheap to get 2 creatures back for 2 things. All right, so this one, the Rayami First of the Fallen, strange little vampire, but it's got, it's a strange little vampire. For 1, a black, a green, and a blue. And if a non-token creature would die, exile that card with a blood counter on it instead. And as long as an exiled creature card with a blood counter on it has flying, Rayami First of the Fallen has flying. The same is true for First Strike, Double Strike, Death Touch, Haste, Hexproof, Indestructible, Lifelink, Menace, Protection, Reach, Trample, and Vigilance. And so Rayami is a 5/4 as it is. Plus whatever dies, she gets pretty much all their abilities. So it's going to be a weird little vampire sucking not only your life, but everything.
It's 5/4 for 4.
It's 5/4 for 4 already. Mhm.
That's stupid.
Yeah, it is.
Vampires
gonna
are
be
always
fun.
stupid, but it's
It's a
weird. It's a
vampire.
green, blue, black vampire.
Yeah, very strange.
Overwhelming Stampede. 3 and 2 green. For a sorcery, until the end of turn, creatures you control gain trample and get +X/+X, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control.
I need to put this card in my Jumanji deck.
Yes. Nice little trample-y card. That one's in Primal Genesis too.
Alrighty, and now we have Grismold the Dread Sower. This is such a weird looking card, but it is a for
This
one.
looks like the trash heap off of Fraggle Rock.
True. Oh boy.
I love
For
trash
one and
heap.
a black and a green, it's a 3/3 with trample. And at the beginning of your end step, each player creates a 1/1 green plant creature token. Each player. Whenever a creature token dies, put a 1/1 counter on Grismold, the Dread Sower.
Mhm.
So there's going to be these little plants dying everywhere, and this guy is going to just get bigger and
Well,
bigger.
and it's important to note that this is not whenever a plant creature token dies. It is whenever a creature token dies.
Yeah.
So if
That's
you're
a good
playing
point.
against Primal Genesis,
Your Dread Sower is going to get bigger
and then
bigger.
you just give everything death touch until the
That's
end
trample.
of the turn,
Oh, yes. Right.
or something like that.
Oh, man. Okay.
Strionic Resonator, 2, and it's an artifact, goes on the battlefield. You can pay 2 to tap it and copy target triggered ability you control. You may choose new targets for that copy. So now's, I guess, a good time to talk about abilities. Triggered abilities, mana abilities, and static abilities. So those are the 3 types of abilities that you'll see. Static abilities are things like flying, menace, they're on the card and they're just always part of the card. Mana abilities are ones that you pay a cost, you pay that mana, and it could be a different cost, an additional cost, but you pay that to make something happen. A triggered ability is an ability that happens when you when a certain thing happens. So, for example, if it's when this creature dies, something happens. That triggers when that creature dies. And so that is what is called a triggered ability. So a lot of times when you're playing Magic against people, they'll say trigger, and then they'll point to whatever card is triggering. And it's a great idea for you to try and help your opponents remember their triggers in friendly games.
Yeah,
that
for
you're
sure.
not obliged to do that in the competitive field, but in casual, regular rules enforcement, you should help the people that you're playing with remember their triggers, and hopefully the karma will do
Yes.
well on you, and
Yes.
they will remind you as well. So in this case, it is a triggered ability that happens that you can choose a new target for that copy. So it's important to know what type of trigger it is so you know what you're allowed to copy, and you can, of course, pay 2 and tap that at instant speed, so you can do it anytime.
Cool. All right. So this card, Sudden Substitution, for 2 and 2 blue. Lesley nicely gave it to me. It's an instant. So it's got split second on it. So as long as the spell is on the stack, players can't cast spells or activate abilities that aren't mana abilities. Okay, so nothing can happen. When this guy goes on, you have to do what's happening here. So exchange control of target non-creature spell and target creature. Then the spell's controller may choose new targets for it. So what you're going to do, you're playing this sudden substitution when they play, let's say,
in response to Lightning Strike.
In response to Lightning Strike, okay? So you're going to say, okay, I'm going to play this card, and I'm going to take your Lightning Strike, and you're going to have
one of my creatures.
Then the spell's controller may choose new targets for it. So now I have your Lightning Strike, and I'm going to use it on you.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So talking about the stack.
Yes.
What is the stack basically? Do you want to talk about the stack, or do you want me to talk about the stack?
Well, let's see what you're saying.
All right, you can add. You can tell me when I'm wrong. Okay, so when you're playing Magic, whenever you cast a spell, it goes on this invisible thing called the stack, and people can have the opportunity to respond when you play a spell. So their spell goes on the stack as well after that. So in response, Shawna is playing her sudden substitution. It goes on the stack on top of my card.
Mhm.
And the stack always resolves with the last card that was on it first, and then it goes down the stack. So just think of if you were doing this in real life on paper, and you decided that every card that you played just went into the middle of the table, and when you started with the top card and you resolved those at the same time. So in this case, Lightning Strike goes on the stack, Sudden Substitution goes on the stack after it. Now that it's on the stack, it has the split second ability, which is as long as the spell is on the stack, players can't cast spells or activate abilities that aren't mana abilities. So you can't play anything that is in response, basically, to this spell. And then you're just going to steal my Lightning Strike. And you may have a token. You may have basically any card on the battlefield. You're going to steal that Lightning Strike from me, and you're going to give me a dummy creature in return.
Yeah.
And then you get to, because you're the controller of that spell now, you get to choose a new target for that spell, that Lightning Strike, whatever.
Do it to them instead.
Yeah. So it's a very, very complicated spell steal.
Yeah.
But that's how it works. That's how the stack works. Mana fixing, always very needed, especially in 3-color decks. Bounty of Luxa is 2 and a green and a blue. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, remove all flood counters from Bounty of Luxa. If no counters were removed this way, put a flood counter on Bounty of Luxa and draw a card. Otherwise, add a colorless, a green, thank
Forest.
you, and forest, and an island blue to your mana pool. So this talks a little bit about pre-combat mana phase. So in a game of Magic, you have a beginning phase, which has your untap, upkeep, draw. You have a main phase. You have a combat phase, which is split out into declaring combat or declaring attackers, declaring blockers, combat damage, and then post-combat phase. And then you have another main phase, and then you have the end step, which you clean up anything that needs to be done. And stuff can happen in all of those different things. So before combat happens and after your main phase, one of the things that you should probably get in the habit of doing, if you don't do it already, is saying moving to combat. What that does is it tells your opponent that you are in your pre-combat phase, which says, if you have something you want to do to my creatures before I declare attackers, now's the time. If you don't, then you may go into your combat phase and say, and I'm going to swing with this. Now they know what you're going to swing with, and they are going to get the opportunity, because you didn't say anything, to say, oh, well, I wanted to do something before you went to combat. So if you get into the habit of saying move to combat, then it kind of lets people know you're in your pre-combat main phase. Yes. So in this case, right before you go to combat in your pre-combat main phase, this is a mana ability. It doesn't have anything to do with combat, but you're going to remove all the flood counters from Bounty of Luxa. Then the next turn, since you won't have any counters on it, if no counters were removed this way, then you get to put a flood counter on Bounty of Luxa and draw a card. So the next turn you're going to draw a card, and then otherwise, if you're not putting a counter on it or drawing a card, then you can pay to add to your mana pool, you add, this adds that to your mana pool.
So mana disappears at every phase.
Yes.
Right? So you have to spend that mana right then, otherwise it's gone. So
yes, it gives you a little bit of mana to do, and I think that's why it's in your pre-combat main phase, because once you end that phase, now you're moving to the combat. So this gives you an opportunity to flip over those cards, do what you need to do before you go to combat.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so cultivate for 2 and a green. This is a sorcery. staple for commander decks. It's mana fixing. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, reveal them, and put one on the battlefield tapped and the other into your hand. Then shuffle.
Urban
Pretty
Evolution.
standard.
3, a green and a blue. Draw 3 cards. You may play an additional land this turn.
So kind of card draw, kind of land.
Card draw, land, but you're probably going to do it so you can play an extra land.
Yeah. Trail of Mystery for 1 and a green. It's an enchantment, and whenever a face-down creature enters a battlefield under your control, you may search your library for a basic land, reveal it, and put it onto your hand, then shuffle
For
your
2!
library.
That is crazy enchantment in this deck.
Yes, and whenever a permanent you control is turned face up, if it's a creature, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn. That's an enchantment. It's just going to be out there all the time doing all sorts of stuff for you, getting you more mana, giving you bonuses. It's just a great card.
Which is another reminder that until end of turn, you've already played your creature face down in the turn. It has Summoning Sickness when it comes in face down. So on your next turns, your subsequent turns, if you turn it face up, it no longer has Summoning Sickness and it can attack with that 2/2. If you morph it and turn it face up in the same turn, then obviously it still has the Summoning Sickness rules that go along with any creatures that enter the battlefield. They have Summoning Sickness until you have owned them for a full turn, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Thrawn Dynamo for 4. Add 3 mana to your mana pool.
Simple.
It's better than Soul Ring.
It's a crazy dynamo.
3.
But it costs 4.
Costs 4, but...
Tempt with Discovery for 3 and a green. It's a sorcery, and it has a text on it.
Lots
of text.
Shawna puts her
Tempting
glasses
offer.
on.
Yes, I put my glasses on. Search your library for a land card and put it on the battlefield. Each opponent may search his or her library for a land card and put it onto the battlefield. For each opponent who searches a library this way, search your library for a land card and put it on the battlefield. Then each player who searched shuffles. So, yeah. I'm going to do some politicking here and get other people, hey, you guys, I'm gonna go searching for a land. You want
Feel
to?
free.
Go ahead. But when they do, I get to search for another land for each one of those people that do that. So that's handy.
Mm-hmm. And then Soul Ring for 1, and you can add 2 mana. I'm just going to go back to that Thrawn, actually, and talk about Soul Ring and Thrawn. So, yes, it costs 4, but you put it in and it's not tapped.
Right.
So you put it in for 4, but then you have 3 mana to spend. So technically only costs 1. Same as Soul Ring.
I guess, yeah.
You put it in,
for 1.
it taps for 2, you put it in for 1. So technically it was free.
Yeah, good point, I suppose. Yeah, you're right. Okay.
You don't have any colors, but...
Good point. Sakura Tribe Elder for 1 and a green. It's a 1/1 snake shaman. You can sacrifice him and search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. It's another standard commander card.
Yeah. Explore, Farseek, both another great commander card. So Explore is 2 and a green. You may play an additional land this turn and draw a card. Farseek, search your library for plains, islands, swamps, or mountain card and put it onto the battlefield tapped. Then shuffle your library. That one was in Primal Genesis as well. It does not have forest on it because it assumes you already have a forest.
Yeah, because that's what you played. All right, Scare Tiller. It's that little scarecrow again for 4. It's a 1/4, but when you can tap him, you can choose whether you want to put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped, or you can return a land card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So he gets that land out of your graveyard for you, which is really handy.
Mm-hmm. And then we'll go through the lands. We have 1 land that has basic land cycling in it. You put it in Ash Barrens. It's in, I think, all of the decks. It basically just adds a colorless mana to your mana pool, or if you don't need any mana at that time, you can pay 1 and discard it and search your library for a basic land card and reveal it. So this allows you to grab the color of land that you need.
Good. Bojuka Bog. Enters battlefield tapped, and when it enters the battlefield, exile all cards from target player's graveyard. So I'm not going to let you have your graveyard shenanigans, Shawna.
Yeah,
you're going to say to me. And it taps for black.
Command Tower should be in every commander deck ever, but add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity.
Dark Waters Catacombs, it is one where you pay one and get both black and blue mana.
There's a few. What
It's
are
very
the
handy.
other ones?
Oh yeah, okay. There's that one. There's Demir Aqueduct is 2, and it enters battlefield tapped, and you have to return a land from that you control to your hand to get that. But there you've got, in 2 lands, you've got 4 mana, which is awesome.
Then we have 3 cards in this that allow you to tap and search for a basic land card of the color that you choose. So we have Evolving Wilds, Terramorphic Expanse, and Myriad Landscape. They all do the same thing. Evolving Wilds and Terramorphic Expanse do not tap for mana. You can just sacrifice them and search for mana, but Myriad Landscape does tap for colorless mana. So you can keep it on the battlefield until you decide to, and then you have to pay 2 to search your library for 2 basic land cards, and then that share a land type and put them on the battlefield.
Awesome. Exotic Orchard, we've had that one before too, and it lets you tap it and add a mana of any color of land an opponent controls that would be useful for you. You can do that.
And I don't know how many there. I think there's 4 usually that tap for one or the other. But we have Foul Orchard, Simic Guildgate, Woodland Streams, and Golgari Guildgate. They all tap for 2 mana. So that, or not 2 mana. They tap for one of that color.
Oh yeah, and then Golgari Rot Farm and Simic Growth Chamber are both tapping for 2. They come in tapped. They the Rot Farm is for black and a green, and it same thing as the other one. You have to return a land to your hand. Same with the Simic Growth Chamber, but it's green and blue. So.
Oh, and then we have another one that taps for one or the other. Jungle Hollow.
And yeah, you gain a life for those ones.
Yes, right. The gain a life ones. That's why they're together.
Yeah.
And then Thornwood Falls is also gain a life.
And then there's also Llanowar Wastes, which is you pay 1, or sorry, you can tap it and add a colorless to your mana pool, or you can tap it and make black or green, but it deals a damage to you.
Which in Commander is fine.
Yeah, and that's the same for Yavimah Coast as well. It's green and blue, though, instead.
And then Sunken Hollow is an unless land. I call them the unless lands. I love these unless lands. Anyway, when it enters the battlefield, it comes in tapped unless you control 2 or more basic lands.
And it counts as an island or swamp.
Yeah.
All right, an Opulent Palace enters the battlefield tapped, and it's for black, green, or blue, which is your commander color, so it's handy dandy if you need one of those ones.
And this is the super important card in this that we were talking about before, Reliquary Tower. You have no maximum hand size. Again, there's a lot of card draw in this. Morph cards that allow you to draw cards. Your commander allows you to draw cards. There's card draw cards in this, and you want to have lots of cards in your hand, so Reliquary Tower, you'll hopefully get on the battlefield early.
And it's mana.
Shrine
of the Forsaken Gods. You can add 1 to your mana pool, or you can add 1 colorless to your mana pool, or you can add 2 colorless and spend that mana only to cast colorless spells and activate this ability only if you control 7 or more lands. So that might be useful to get your big guys out.
Yep.
Or, well, I guess it's colorless spells. It has to be.
Temple of the False God is 2 adds 2 colorless. Activate this ability only if you control 5 or more lands. So nice little card there.
And Thespian Stage is tap it for colorless, or you can pay 2 and tap it to make it a copy of a target land, except it has this ability. So you can copy some more.
There are also 5 islands, 3 swamps, and 7 forests, which you can basically play with. This deck has 40 land in it. So I guess we'll go into the deck breakdown and some of the tweaks that you can do. But ultimately, when you tweak any of the pre-made decks, as we've mentioned in our other videos, but if this is the first one you're watching, we'll mention it again. Basically, Wizards likes to put in extra lands that you can then take out to put in some of your own stuff without sacrificing some of the cards that they've put in there and having to try and choose which ones of those to take out. You can certainly decide that this is not a card I want to use and take that out, but start with the lands. In this case, there are we'll start with the colors of this deck. There are 14 blue cards, 9 black cards, 18 green cards, and 13 multicolored cards. And then we have 6 colorless artifacts in this deck.
Mm-hmm. And the card types, you've got 11 sorceries, 32 creatures, 5 artifacts, 7 instants, 4 enchantments, and 1 planeswalker. And then your 40 lands. So,
and typically how much land should we have in a commander deck?
What's the number?
33
to 35. So it's got a few more in there.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of high cost stuff.
Yeah, this actually has the most land in it for all of the commander decks right now.
Yeah.
And there's nothing worse than just drawing land all the time. So I definitely recommend taking some of those land out, especially seeing as a lot of your cards you're going to morph. You're going to pay them for 3 and then pay them for a lower cost later, or split up that cost. There are some high mana costs. This is also the deck that has some of the highest mana cost cards in it. But let's go to mana cost or mana curve. Right. So mana curve, we have 40 land, as we talked about. 1 at 1 mana cost. We have 20 at 2, 9 at 3, 14 at 4, 5 at 9. No, 9 at 5, 4 at 6, 2 at 7, and 1 at 9. So in this graphic, the lower mana or the darker colored ones are the ones that are kind of reprints, and then the new cards are in there, which you can kind of see changes the mana curve quite a bit when you put those in there. There's a lot more 4 mana cost ones than you would typically see. And then, of course, that 9 mana cost one, that's that dinosaur 10/10 dinosaur removal card that gets you. So when we were going through this, we thought of some tweaks for this deck, things that we think that you should do. There was a lot of great cards that we found that allowed you to remorph your cards, so to speak, because you flip them over again. So the first one is Backslide. Love the art on this card. It's 2 and a blue, and it's turn target creature with Morph face down. If you don't want to do that, then you can just cycle it. So that's a nice little benefit. You get a card draw off of that. But gosh, I wish. And then if you can copy this.
Yeah, exactly.
If there's a card that allows you to copy this, or you morph something to copy this spell, that's great. It's a nice little turn things face down.
The next one we were looking at was Master of the Veil for 2 and 2 blue, a 2/3 wizard. And it has a morph of 2 and a blue. And when it is turned face up, you may turn target creature with morph face down. So you turn him up and you can turn somebody else face down and do some more shenanigans with it, or do it again, that sort of thing. So we thought that'd be fun.
Brine Elemental, 4 and 2 blue. Most of our tweaks tend to be blue, it looks like. This one has Morph. Morph costs 5 and 2 blue, and when it's turned face up, each opponent skips his or her next untap step. And I love this card because it's each opponent. So you get your turn, and they all get to play their turn, but they don't get to untap their cards, and then you get to have an additional combat before they get to untap anything. So if you play that on your first main phase, then swing in with everything, and then they can't, they tap all their cards and can't untap them. So
Dulcet Sirens for 2 and a blue. It's a 1/3 creature, a siren creature. They're always trying to trick you into following them. And it is for, you can tap it and pay a blue for target creature attacks target opponent this turn if able. And you can morph it. So make it cast this card face down as a 2/2 creature. So it's one of those little tricks you're going to have sitting there. It's a siren, right? And it's going to be sitting there, and all of a sudden you're going to flip it over and tap it and make that person, creature that was going to come at you, go to someone else instead.
Perfect example of one of those combat trick cards.
Yes, exactly. And it's cheap.
And our first green tweak that we wanted to make was Guardian Shield Bearer. This one has Mega Morph. It is 1 and a green, and when it is turned face up, put a 1/1 counter on another target creature you control. So not only do you get a 1/1 counter on this creature, you get a 1/1 counter on another target creature you control, which we'll talk about in our last two tweaks of why that might be good.
Echo Tracer for 2 and a blue is a 2/2, and its morph is for 2 and a blue as well. But when it is turn face up, return target creature to its owner's hand. So again, those shenanigans, I'm going to return that to your hand before it kills me.
Mm-hmm. And Coral Trickster, blue and a colorless for morph, and when it is turned face up, you can tap or untap target creature, which there are some target permanent, yes. There is that lovely little artifact that allows you to tap to manifest, and lots of things that you can tap to do stuff with. So this allows you to tap their creature if you don't want it to attack you, or untap, and you're going to turn it face up while they're doing it. Yeah. In their pre-combat main phase, you need to tap their creature.
We also like Merfolk Skydiver just as a little, it's for green and a blue for 1/1 flyer, but when it enters the battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. But what's nice about it is later on in the game, you can use it for 3 and a blue and a green to proliferate. So you've got all those creatures out there with 2/2 counters on them, or counters on them from their megamorphs and that sort of thing. So it's just a great way to buff them up all of a sudden for fairly cheap.
Yeah, there is quite a few counters, so that's what one thing we were talking about when we were looking at this deck is throwing in some proliferate. There is one card that proliferates in this, and I would just definitely put more proliferate cards in. In fact, if I was going to tweak and I was going to take out 4 or 5 lands, I would put all proliferate stuff in there. We have Vraska the Unseen in there. Your Planeswalker can be proliferated, and then all your Megamorph cards can be proliferated, and a lot of these come with counters. So Rolesque Apex Hybrid is another one from War of the Spark. Flying Trample, when it comes in, you get to put 2 1/1 counters on another target creature you control, and when it dies, you proliferate, then you proliferate again. So nice little proliferate card, and taking advantage of those megamorphs.
Yeah, awesome.
So those are our tweaks. We'd love to hear how you would tweak the deck. We'd love to see what you think about some of the cards and how you might play it. I definitely think that this deck is one that maybe a brand new player to Magic isn't going to want to pick up. It's meant for those people that have been playing a little while and understand when to play instants and sorceries and when to flip things up. There's going to be a lot of thought needed in this deck, so you will probably get told that you're playing too slow, but don't let that discourage you. Take your time, think about what you want to do, think about what you're going to do while other people are playing. So don't just sit there and stare. And I know it's fun sometimes to be like, oh, what's going on? But think about your next turn when it's not your turn. But yeah, no, we had a ton of fun making this, and so we hope that you enjoyed it. Thank you for sticking with us, and in the meantime, tap those magic cards and have fun doing it. See you later, guys.
Bye.